What a difference a week makes. That is how long it took for the Miami-Dade School Board to reverse its decision to remove a textbook about sex health education based on a number of objections from parents. But then another petition by public school parents garnered thousands of signatures in support of bringing back the book, and the change of heart by the board chair brought back the book.
This plays out in an election year where education policy and parental rights are at the center of Florida politics. Here with us today are Alex Serrano, Executive Director of County Citizens Defending Freedom. Last week he presented 278 petitions to the school board objecting to the sex ed textbook called Comprehensive Health Skills. Gina Vinueza is a PTS leader at Palmetto Senior High, and her group, Parents for Children of Miami, quickly collected some 2,500 signatures asking that the school board rescind the ban and reinstate the book, which in fact they did. So Ms. Vinueza and Mr. Serrano, welcome. We're glad to see you.
Thank you for having us.
Just wanted to point out that because of COVID protocols, we stay separately and we're all on Zoom, and that comes with it some technical difficulties, which we're having with Alex Serrano right now. So we're going to get him back up on a Zoom link. So Gina, let's start with you, because that petition, boy, that was a petition that got thousands of signatures in 24 hours. How did that start? How did that come about right after the school board decided to take away that book?
Thank you, Glenna, for asking. Well, after last...
Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
I think we're listening to Alex. Alex, is that you?
Alex, we hear you, I think.
I dropped off. I'm back.
Okay,
Good.
Great. All right.
Good.
So Gina, why don't we answer, let's talk about first how this all came about, because we're going to talk about his petition is the one that got that book banned. So Gina, how did that all come about?
So after the board ruling on July 20th, several of the parents that were there, myself included, continued the discussion about our concerns and the critical need for our students to have a curriculum in place before the beginning of the school year. We were contacted by several parents in Miami-Dade County Public Schools and felt the need to create this petition so that they would have a voice to let the school board know how concerned we were. We asked specifically that they reconsider the previous decision and put this curriculum in place, which has been missing for 2 years in our school.
Yeah. Alex Serrano, are you with us? If we can, let's pop him up. There he is, upper right. Alex, good morning. Glad to see you.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you're here. It is your group, County Citizens Defending Freedom. We'll talk about that later, what it is, what its goals are. But you presented, on behalf of the group, 278 petitions to the school board objecting to the use of this textbook. What were your objections? What was wrong with it?
So let me clarify that, Michael. We didn't present petitions on behalf of CCDF. We facilitated a process for various community members and parents of the district to officially petition to object to content of these books and to object to the process that was executed to select, recommend, and adopt these books. I want to put context real quick between the two petitions. One petition, which is Gina's petition, is a change.org, which simply allows a user to click I agree or send or sign. And I will argue that the pretenses of her petition are misleading and irresponsible, and we can get into why.
Yeah.
The petition objections that we submitted or on behalf of parents and community members are under a statutory process which required that these members review the material, cite specific material that they objected to, fill out the form in handwriting,
Alex,
sign it, and mail it. I'm
going to interrupt you. We really don't want to get bogged down into process and whether process was formed. I mean, the fact of the matter is that you and your group object to this textbook. What is wrong with what parts of the textbook do you object to?
First and foremost, we object to the process that resulted in the recommendation of these textbooks to the district. It was under a veiled fashion that did not enable and promote community and parental involvement. Secondly, we do object, and many community members that we facilitated their objections to object to several portions of the content in this book, mainly because they are not age appropriate, which is textbooks covered by statute because they violate parental rights, which is also covered by Florida statute, and because they are not scientifically and biologically factual.
So, Gina, I would like you to address that. I mean, we don't want to get bogged down in process, to Michael's point, but the schools do have a process by which parents can address things. Your petition was more of a reactionary petition. I say that with great respect, because something happened that really you didn't want to happen, and you got the tide turned. And I would like you to address Alex and the concerns of other parents like Alex. And I just want to go on record to say, Alex, your kids are in private school at the moment. You are not a public school parent. But we have new laws right now that, practically speaking, don't change much where it comes to parental rights in schools. Parents have always had rights in schools, but they certainly do enumerate them and specify them. And so take that, if you would, Gina, and what happens now going forward with these kind of processes and textbooks and curriculum?
Thank you. I understand completely that parents have a hard time talking about this subject with their kids, and that all kids develop differently. These textbooks provide all kinds of information essential to kids, information that's required by Florida law. We're talking about information about how to identify abuse, consent, and why it's important in relationships, how to protect yourself against diseases which are climbing in our county, and also how to protect yourself against unwanted pregnancies. I think this information is factual. I think it has been vetted appropriately by experts. There was, in fact, parent representation on the panel, and I support fully parent involvement in the process of educating our children. And again, I understand all children develop differently, and each family has the right to decide what information their child is exposed to, or even how their family values influence those decisions about that information. And that's why Miami-Dade County Public Schools is a district of choice. That was never, ever threatened. Parents always have the opportunity to opt out of any curriculum that they don't agree with, whether we're talking about reproductive health or we're talking about geography. And listen, if we allow parents on this panel that are looking at geography books that don't believe that the earth is round, at what point do we stop listening to our experts and trusting our experts and our teachers on these subjects?
Alex, I would love to hear your response to that question, and also my sort of question. Parents do have the opportunity to opt out of sex ed. There is parental choice, and so taking a book away might crash the choice of people who do want it. So those two questions: where does fact and belief come to play, and isn't opt out enough?
So let me start with the opt-out process. One of the main primary claims that we have in objection to the entire process that resulted in the recommendation and adoption of these books in the first place is that it did not enable sufficient community and parental involvement. We had to take it upon ourselves as an organization to inform our community of the content within these books. That would tell you that these opt-out forms, when they're received by parents, when they're mailed out to the parents of the district, that the majority of these parents would not have knowledge of what they are opting out of. If they don't review the books because the publication of the books and the access to them by them is not sufficiently noticed, then they have not reviewed the content and they are not opting out in an informed manner. So that is not conducive to informed consent. In terms of qualified experts on the panel and parent participation on the panel, I want to address that because there were 9 committee members that selected and recommended these books. The majority of them were PE teachers. We would argue that those are not qualified experts for various medical procedures that are covered in the book. And in terms of parent participation, there was only one parent in this committee, and that parent was a district employee and teacher of the district. So 10% roughly of parent participation is insufficient. At the very least, it should be 50% parents on these committees that review and select these books.
All right, well, we want to hear from Gina on that issue, but everybody hold your places. We'll be back with more discussion about sex education and textbooks in Miami-Dade.
We are back with Alex Serrano and Gina Vinueza, two very engaged parents on the opposite sides of the sex ed textbook issue, talking about what happened this week. That book now back at Miami-Dade, in Miami-Dade classrooms. Gina, Alex in our last segment was talking about how that opt-out was not appropriate and that how the panel who decided the textbook was appropriate just didn't have enough parents on it. And I know you wanted to address that.
Yes, I agree with Alex in the sense that I think parent engagement is vital to the education of our children. And I am beyond thrilled that this issue has allowed more parents to be aware of what's going on and to engage actively in this discussion. The reality is, however, that our public schools serve children from all backgrounds, many of whom do not have trusted adults at home. So this is one of the many reasons why it's so important to support our public schools and our teachers, and for the parents that are aware to engage in this discussion, because we all have a responsibility to all of our children, not just our own.
Alex, let me go back, not to sound repetitive, but I still want you to respond to the objections specifically. Now, I understand that I've looked at the textbook in question. There is some kind of brief discussion of transgender, cisgender. It talks about emergency abortion, contraceptives. It talks about going to a trusted adult if a student has a problem. Do you object to any of that?
Yes, Michael. So let's start with the gender identity component of it. If these are health and human reproduction and disease education textbooks, this is official instruction. So gender identity would fall under the realm of ideology that does not belong in these textbooks. If you are providing scientifically factual and accurate gender information, it is that there are two genders, male and female. This ideology, if it belongs anywhere in the school district, many parents, most I would say, would argue that it doesn't belong in schools at all. It definitely does not belong in human reproduction and disease education official instruction.
So what's interesting in listening to this and pretty much a year's worth of debate on these issues is there seems to be a line that no one crosses, and it's either you believe in something that is ideology or you believe in something that is science. And that's a very difficult conversation to have, to bridge, because it is what it is on both sides. And just for the record, we respect everybody in all sides here. So I wonder if you can weigh in, because to your point, Alex, some of the law and some of the policies use words that are very vague, and age appropriate may be one of them. Age appropriate for one family may not work for another family. So what do you think is age appropriate for middle and high school? What is that age, or is there one?
I think that in order to achieve that definition of age appropriateness, it requires sufficient and impactful parental and community involvement so that what is selected and recommended reflects the values of our community as a whole. And that is why we argue that the panel was not appropriate in terms of expertise to recommend this content and to reflect the values of our community, because it did not have sufficient community and parental involvement.
And Gina, what in your opinion is age appropriate?
Well, speaking as a mental health therapist who worked for over 10 years with children and families in the area of mental health, it is unique to each child and each family. But I will say that the topics that we're discussing here are appropriate for some children much younger than even middle school and high school. So it can't really be generalized in that way, which is why we do need parent involvement. However, the job of the school district is not to instill values. That's the framework our families and our communities provide. The job of the school is simply to provide support to all of our students and accurate information that's based on best practices and what we know of today. And again, as a therapist, gender is something, gender identity is something that is very real. And we do have trans kids in our schools. They exist and they have a right to be acknowledged and respected and supported.
Yeah. To that point, Alex, I think that's indisputable what Gina just said. There are trans kids. There are kids who are confused about their sexual identity in school, and their classmates know it. Now, are you saying that a textbook should not reflect that reality?
No, a textbook should not reflect that reality because this is a health, human reproduction, and disease education textbook. Our school district has more than sufficient resources currently that provide support for LGBTQ community and youth. I would say almost to a degree that is discriminatory of the youth that is not LGBTQ+. So there's more than sufficient resources and support outside of official instruction within the classroom. It does not need to be addressed within official textbooks. It does not belong there.
Alex, you have your parental choice was to take your kids out of public school, put them in private school. So why, I so admire engaged parents in their children's education. That is like the #1 mark of success by all accounts for a student, of parents who are engaged. Why, though, take such effort and involvement to dispute what is in public schools?
First and foremost, my 3 kids were in public school, and the reason that we pulled them out of public school is because we identified the various problems that are prevalent in our district and across the nation, to be honest. So I am on a mission to rectify that situation as best as I can at a local level with the organization that I represent. Second of all, I would say that even though my children are not in the school district at the moment, they will be out in the community and in society with their counterparts that are being educated by our public school system. And if that education is not appropriate, is not factual, and includes ideology, that will reflect upon the society and the counterparts and the colleagues of my children and the children of many others.
Yeah, I would simply say, Gina, in about 30 seconds, you want your children to be among peers who are well educated about domestic abuse, about sexually transmitted diseases, all the other things that are in this textbook and are problems for young people.
That's correct. And I am just so pleased that our school board, my faith has been restored in them, that they're putting our children first, and that they're living up to the A rating that this district provides. So I'm proud that both of my children have been through this entire, their entire school career has been in the public school system. My daughter's a sophomore at University of Florida and thriving. And I just see the amazing teachers that she's had, and I'm very proud to be a part of it.
Gina Vinueza, we are so glad that you joined us this morning. Alex Serrano, we are interested in your group. We're going to have you back in the future to talk about your mission in Miami-Dade County politics.
Appreciate you both.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.